Hello, 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 everybody. Let's see how this is working. I'm going to work on sharing this to all of the places that I want to share. So hopefully, folks will get this. Hey there, hey there. I see I have the first person on. Hey, Sam, how are you? I'm running my own support right now. So give me a second because I want to make sure that I share this wherever it's supposed to go. So I'm getting to my events. Hey there, I got some more folks joining. Say hi. Hey, Natasha. Thank you. There we go. Okay, y'all. I'm trying to poorly do sharing this. There we go. I'm doing, you know what? I can't complain at all, y'all. I cannot complain at all. So there we go. So now I see I have Natasha, I have Sam, I have Sanithia, I have everybody that I need to have in the house, and I know there's going to be some more folks joining. So, before we get started, before I tell you who I am, before we get started talking about our topic tonight, I just want to see in the comments, how are you feeling today? How are you feeling today? So, go ahead and drop one word in the comments that's describing how you feel today. Let's see who's going to be first. Who's going to be first? Hey, Charlie. I hope I'm saying your name right. Just waiting for you to see in the comments who's going to be first to tell me, how are you feeling today? Powerful. That's a bold word. So I see powerful. Let me tell you how I'm feeling today. While I see some other folks sad. Thank you, Sanithia, for that vulnerability. I'm feeling, I was feeling tired earlier, so I just took a quick power nap. And right now, I'm feeling inspired. I see relieved. So hopefully, as others join on, I'm going to put that question right there. How are you feeling? I want to remind us that how are you feeling? There's no right or wrong. If you're feeling rage, if you're feeling ecstatic, if you're feeling happy, if you're feeling sad, if you're feeling every gray place in between, all of our feelings are valid and all of those feelings are valid. And I just want to hold space for that. I hope that today, by the time that we finish our roughly hour together, that you walk away from this feeling hopeful, feeling inspired, and feeling actionable. So, those are the three hopes that I have for you today. So while you get yourself set up, get some pen, get some paper, get something to write with. For those of you guys that are new to me, because I have a couple of faces that I haven't seen before, let me tell you a little bit about who I am and what I do. So I am Aaliyah McDaniel. I'm your unapologetic Black girl expert, and I'm here to simply liberate Black women. But I do that through helping you to discover your divine purpose, your divine power, helping you to be unapologetic, helping you to use the tools that you have to find your voice and to find what you are meant to do in this life, and not just to figure that out, but to really take in those tools like manifestation, take in those tools like how do you stand up for yourself, take in those tools like goal setting, all of those things so that you can simply put, live the life that you desire and that you deserve. So that's who I am and that's what I do. So I felt compelled to talk about tonight, how do you use your personal power and how do you use magic to stand up in your power? Because, especially this summer, but for all of us that are Black women in here, we have always had a world that has conspired against us, so to speak, right? We have always known what it's felt like to be misunderstood, to not be protected, to have to fight, quote unquote, twice as hard And so this summer, a lot of that imploded, not just with the murders of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, not just with all of the atrocities that we're seeing, but also we see this in this pandemic in all of the ways that Black women in particular are being pulled and called and stretched, and in all of the things that we're coming up against. And I really wanted to be able to give you some particular skills and tools so that you don't feel so hopeless or so exhausted and so stretched thin. I really want you to be able to know not only what your power is, but how you can leverage your power. So that's a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. But a little housekeeping. One, I love interaction. So this is not a formal workshop in the sense that you can't excuse me, interrupt. Go ahead and interrupt. Ask me questions. Put your thoughts and comments in the chat. I love a good GIF. I love a good emoji. So I'm going to be asking for some audience participation because I don't want to talk to myself. And also because I really believe in the space that we cultivate with each other. So this space is going to have as much energy and as much beauty as we collectively pull in together. So do I have some agreements to those housekeeping rules that you guys are going to be my amen corner and drop comments and drop numbers and drop chats and emojis in the comment? First participation. Let's see if this is true. Go ahead and put a 1 in the comment. Let me see who's following along. Who's going to be first? Who's going to be first? Who's going to be first? So some of y'all may not know that I'm an educator by trade, so we're going to get this audience participation popping, right? All right, so let's go to the first part. So the first part that I want to talk to you guys around is, why do people feel like they don't have personal power? What are the gaps that you all are experiencing in personal power? And I have 3 points that I want to make about that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm seeing the ones come through, and I know I'm probably a little bit delayed. That's why I'm not seeing it, so I apologize. Let's first talk about, what is personal power and what are the gaps that we're experiencing, right? So when I think about personal power, power is this interesting and general construct. Most of us, when we think power, we think about the ability to change things, the ability to have things go in our direction, the ability to have influence, the ability to have impact. And this word power gets misconstrued a lot because we talk about sometimes people, especially folks in the dominant genders, races, classes, think that everybody has the same amount of power. And they don't realize that sometimes their power comes from institutional power. It comes from, all of the other isms, but there's giving them particular power. And sometimes those people conflate thinking that, oh, everyone has the same amount of personal power without realizing their privileges. So today, what I'm going to focus in on is your personal power, because I believe and I firmly hold that no matter what is going on in the world, no matter what your position is in society, no matter what your demographic or your identity, everyone has a personal set of power that they can maximize. It doesn't mean that it's easy. It doesn't erase structural challenges or obstacles, but you do have personal power that you can impact, that will help impact your world. So the first reason why some people have gaps in understanding what their personal power is, or experiencing that, is because they aren't even sure about what they have control over. It's sometimes so easy to become really daunted by all of the things that are outside of your control, right? We can't control this pandemic. We can't control what's going to happen with schools and what the outcomes are going to be. We can't control even necessarily what the outcomes of this presidential election are going to be. We might have some influence, but we don't have complete control. And so because of that, it can be really daunting to think about, what do I personally have control over? So the first thing I always invite people to do is to first think back to yourself. Think about and literally generate a list about what are the things that you do have control over that we sometimes overlook or that we sometimes take for granted. So I'm going to give you 10 seconds, and I want you to think. If you're so bold, you could put it in the comments, but I know everybody has some pen and paper, and I want you to just do a quick jot for 10 seconds. What is at least one thing that you have control over? Go. 10 seconds to yourself. So hopefully in that 10 seconds, everybody identified at least one thing that they have control over. Somebody probably jotted down 3 things that they have control over. And that exercise is simply to get you to see that there are things that you have control over, and that's a place where you can start to leverage your personal power. The second gap that people have in experiencing their personal power is knowing their actual value, both monetary value and psychological, emotional, and spiritual value. When people don't realize their value to things, or their value, it's easy for them to underplay themselves. So for example, I'm going to talk about me. So once upon a time, I had a job where it was the most money that I had ever made in my life at that point. And so because it was the most money that I'd ever made at that point, I felt indebted to this job to overperform and to do above and beyond, even oftentimes in times that it made it sick for me or unhealthy for me, or that I was stretched too thin, or doing things beyond my control, or doing things beyond my job description, because I thought that I was indebted to this position or to this job. I didn't realize how much this company was actually making and saving and making money off of my value, right? So because I didn't see my value, I wasn't able to, one, properly advocate for myself. I wasn't able to use that same value to influence and change my own life. And I wasn't able to actually go for the types of positions and the things that I wanted and that I desired, because I didn't realize that what I was doing was really valuable. I thought that I owed people. And that was just an example in my job, but I also saw that same thing happen in personal relationships, where I undercut myself because I didn't realize how valuable, how unique, and how powerful I was. And so because of that, we tend to accept shit. And if you're new to me, you don't know that I cuss. I cuss a lot because I believe that words are beautiful, and some words have extra seasoning and some words are bland, and we use all of the words. To quote one of my dearest friends from here, we use all the words. And so because I wasn't aware of my own value and my own personhood, I accepted a lot of things that were not healthy for me. They were toxic for me. That didn't allow me to even be my best self, and that happened as a result, again, of me not understanding my value. So I'm not going to tell you how, but I want you just to simply reflect and tell me in the comments. Let me see. I'm going to use number 2 this time. Give me a number 2 if you have ever felt like you struggled with really understanding what your value was. Maybe not now. Maybe this was in the past. Maybe it used to be you. But give me a 2 if you ever struggled with understanding your value. Good. I got somebody that said they like to cuss too. And I got another friend in the comments saying that realizing, or just remembering and reminding themselves that they have control over their response to things. Thank you. I have at least one person who has ever struggled with knowing what their value was, or exercising what their value was, right? So the third thing, or the third reason why some people experience a gap. Oh, I'm already hit there right there. Somebody's like, I'm experiencing that right now, downplaying my value. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it. Okay. So the third thing is, and this is a layer to this, and we're not talking again just about, in a workplace. We're talking about in the relationships. And if you're not in a relationship, we're even talking about downplaying your value in yourself and doubting your own ability, doubting your own skills, doubting your own opportunities, even to step fully into your power, because you have a script running on in your head about what you can and you cannot do because somebody, and I'm going to tell you one thing, here's a hint. Oftentimes that script is not even of your own making. Oftentimes that script is somebody else's bullshit that you have internalized because you have not yet learned how to hear your voice as separate from the other voices in your head. But we're going to get there. All right. So the third thing, and the third reason why we sometimes have gaps in standing up in our personal power, is because we don't know how to use, and we don't even know what our personal voices are. We have been so caught up in, again, following the scripts. We've been caught up in, especially for those of us that were raised by baby boomers and that are Gen Zers, or maybe some late baby boomers ourselves. I know I probably got some millennials on here, but for those of us that were raised particularly by the generation before us, we were taught that life is supposed to have this linear path, and you do this in order to get here, in order to get that, in order to get here. And because we had this script and this blueprint that was laid out for us in director's cut, we know that that script doesn't even work because all of the stuff that we thought was going to happen didn't necessarily come to fruition, or it didn't bring us the same joy and satisfaction that we expected or that we were told that we would have if we did everything by the rules or by the book or following the plan. So as a result, we never cultivated and even understood what our own voice is outside of what other folks told us it's supposed to be. And we never truly cultivated our talents and our skills because we were taught, again, maybe I'm not talking to y'all, maybe I'm only talking to myself because clearly it's just me, but I was taught, you go to school to get this particular job, and to get this job that's going to give you this particular money, and this whole idea of cultivating pleasure and cultivating talents and cultivating joy outside of your title and outside of work was not something that was readily taught to us. It was something that many of us have had to discover. And in our discovery, we've downplayed it because we've said that's not income bearing. That's not, that's not going to lead to retirement. That's not going to lead to the 401k. So that's not important. But what we've done is that we've actually denied our identity. So I've given you 3 quick gaps. I'm loving the fact that you guys are interacting and commenting with each other in the comments. That's telling me that this is sinking in. So am I starting to talk about some folks in here? Okay. So we're going to move on to the next part, and I'm hoping that this is really landing with somebody. I want to make sure that this is content that is helpful for y'all, and that this is something that you're going to, that this is going to really help propel you in a different direction. So Natasha's saying this is some divine timing. So, I'm glad, Natasha, you said divine timing, because I firmly believe that nothing happens by accident. I firmly believe that nothing is by coincidence, and I am fully invested and aligned in my value and in my voice and in my tools. And so what that means is that I know that it's important for me to show up because I'm a conduit for so many women like you. And when I don't show up in my talents, and hint, when you don't show up in your talents, I deny you an opportunity to learn and to grow and to move forward. So hint, somebody is waiting on you to stand fully in what you do so that you can help propel their life, because we're not meant to not only be in this life alone, we're not meant to be in this life alone, we are also not meant not to have impact. And sometimes the impact is going to be great and huge, and sometimes the impact is going to be just how you help that little girl that lives down the street, and there's no value or there's no difference in value in depending on your impact and the number of people. So what I'm trying to say, and I'm using a whole lot of words to say, is quantifying who you impact or how many people you impact does not make your impact more or less important. Okay, we good? So I'm hoping that people over there are saying that this is divine timing, that this is really stirring up something that's been nagging in you, that you've been downplaying yourself, and that you've been feeling uncomfortable or thinking that somebody don't see you because you're not playing full out. I see you. I see you. I see you with my magnetic lashes that I'm trying on. Y'all like my lashes? I'm trying them on. I'm trying something different. All right, let's go to the next part. So why do you have these gaps? And I think it's important to understand the why, because once you understand the root cause of something, then you can be able to more successfully plan and create a blueprint to move forward. So let me say that again. Oftentimes, we like to skip over the root causes of issues because it's uncomfortable. We don't want to dredge up things that made us feel bad. We don't want to dredge up stuff that was uncomfortable or unpleasant in the past. And most often, we want to skip over it. And we do a really good job of skipping over it, y'all. We do it by the things that we purchase. We do it by the way that we show up physically. We do it by the ways that we distract ourselves by being mothers, parents. employees, and I'm saying distract ourselves because we don't consciously do it. We tell ourselves, well, I have to because of all of my commitments. But I'm telling you, a lot of times we pour ourselves into busyness so that we can numb the scripts that are moving on in our brain and convince ourselves that we've gotten over the past or gotten over the root because we move beyond it. Moving past something is not the same thing as healing. And I firmly believe, write this down. I'm going to need y'all to write this down. You ready to write this down? I'm going to need one person at least to write it in the comments. Here's what I want y'all to write down. What is buried alive is not dead. What is buried alive is not dead. Okay, y'all got that down? Let me tell you what I mean by that. What I mean by burying something alive means that it's an active issue that you have not done the work to excavate and to heal, to make peace in a sense. And when I say peace, that doesn't mean forgive or doesn't mean that you are okay with it, but make peace in the sense that you are removing its power in the way that it moves forward. A lot of times people don't go through that process, and it's a grief process in a lot of ways because it's uncomfortable. So they stuff it down, and then it comes and it rears its ugly head in other parts of your life. It's the reason why you're still stuck in that same pattern where you start dating different adaptations or different versions of the same person. It's that reason why you keep having those same issues at the same types of jobs. Even though you change your employer and you change this and you change that, the same type issues keep coming on. It's the reason why we keep going through the same types of experiences. Now, let me be clear what I'm not saying. What I'm not saying is that every negative thing that happens to you is your fault. That is not what I'm saying. People who are abusers, people who are victimizers, people who are oppressors, that's their shit. That is not your shit. And it is not your problem that the reason why they act in maladaptive ways. What I am saying is because oftentimes we have not investigated the why that we may have gotten into a situation that was in our control, because not every situation is in our control, we don't recognize our own patterns, and we haven't learned new skills to replace patterns that no longer work. So we keep doing the maladaptive thing over and over and over again, hoping for a different outcome. But y'all know what they say is, hopefully I'm gonna get the quote right. Isn't that what they say insanity is? Doing the same thing and hoping for a different outcome? Okay. And let me tell you, I'm telling you this because I love you, and I'm telling you this because I've been there myself. So all of that was to say, this is why we need to get clear about the root of why we don't stand up in our power. And we've got to get clear about what this is so we can stop doing insanity that we can control. Okay? Okay. So the first thing, I've already alluded to it. The first reason why we have these gaps in our personal power is because it's a learned behavior. It's a learned behavior in two ways. It's either internally learned, meaning that we have been in a situation where we behaved in one set of ways in response to our environment, and we haven't learned anything else differently. So we keep doing that same thing, and we're convincing ourselves that somehow we're the ones that are wrong, are bad, are unlovable, are invaluable because we're not getting the outcome, when in reality, it's because of certain behaviors that we haven't yet mastered. And it's not because we didn't want to do something different. We just didn't know how. So that's one set of learned behavior. Another set of learned behavior are the behaviors that happen externally, the ones that are taught to us by other folks that don't know shit from Shinola. They might be older than us. They might have been authorities in our lives, but they don't know any different either. So they keep telling us the same story that was told to them, and it was told to them, and it was told to them about how this is supposed to work, but it ain't working for them. I always find it interesting, especially when you look at particular churches, and I'm just talking about it because this is one frame of reference I have, that they always sell this story of what if you just follow XYZ doctrine, then XYZ life will happen to you. But then you look at their life and their life is trash, and you're like, but if that work, why ain't it working for you? You're supposed to be the authority, but it's not working for you. And I say that as an example of how we see that so many times about other systems are always trying to tell people what to do that don't even work. And so I'm going to move away from the churches. I'm going to talk about us with Black women and Black communities, right? So we were taught a lot of us, not all of y'all, but me and mine were taught, if you close your legs, if don't be so fast, if you don't cuss, if you go to school, if you do these things, then this is going to be the outcome for your life. It's going to be rainbows and Beyonce's and Jay-Z's, right? But that shit ain't real. You can still do all the right things in the right kinds of ways and still not experience that happiness, because again, that is somebody else's script that has actually never worked. Buying into patriarchy, buying in and bargaining with your oppressors is not going to work to set you free. And too often that's how we were taught. Okay? And even if you had a family that, didn't participate in that way or didn't teach you those things, unfortunately, as Black women and in Black societies, we are taught a certain type of, we're taught a certain belief. We're taught a certain structure. We are taught to fall into certain types of patterns and behaviors because it's going to teach us to be a certain kind of way. But it doesn't work. One thing that's really interesting, this is kind of a quick side story. So I'm an employer, meaning that I'm in middle management, upper management, whatever you want to call it. And so I often, I make hiring decisions all of the time. And one thing I noticed is that my black female employees in particular never ask for raises, or they never counter when they make an offer. And I had to pull a few to the side, like, look, let me explain to you. One, never accept the first offer that's given to you. We always lowball you because that's just what people do. You are supposed to counter and ask for your worth. And they have this mindset oftentimes that, one, they're afraid that if they counter, that their offer is going to be rescinded, and most importantly, they think that if I just do a good job, keep my head down, be quiet, and do my work, then somehow I'm going to be noticed and be asked for a promotion. And I have to tell them that's not how this works. Most of the time, let me tell you what the other side of the folks are doing. They can be the most mediocre, the most untalented, the most skillless person as it is, but they're out there negotiating their money. They're out there making it clear about what positions that they want. They're out there advocating for what they need. They're out there networking. They're out there identifying the people and the power players, and they're out there making their way known, and they're not waiting for someone to take notice. And in reality, it's often interpreted as an employer that if you are just putting your head down and you're just doing your work, even if you're doing an exceptional job, you don't want the promotion because you are not advocating for yourself. So I say all of that to say that's a long-winded story, but it's a long-winded story about how certain beliefs and systems of beliefs are taught to us, and we don't question it, even though we still don't get the results that we desire, right? So instead, we have to be really clear about what those learned behaviors are, and not only what the behaviors are, but who taught you those behaviors, why did those people teach you those behaviors, and how are those behaviors helping or hindering you? So there's a question in the comments. What happens when you see others follow the script, get the outcomes you want, but you didn't get the outcomes and you followed the same script as they did? Oh, Kiva, I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm going to talk about that in a second. I'm going to give you the short answer. Oftentimes you think that you see people following the script, and there's other stuff at play underneath it. And I'm going to talk about what's at play underneath it. And I'm also going to talk about that not every script is meant for everybody in the same kinds of way. We, each of us, are coming into this place with our own set of background, our own set of context, our own skills, and our own journey in life. So no two people's paths are going to be identical, even if they're doing the same things, right? But I'm going to talk about what I believe is probably underneath why people might be following the same script but getting different outcomes. So the second thing about why people have gaps, external messaging, okay? We all know what messages we hear about Black women, and, what we can and cannot do. And sometimes that influences how we show up. The third, and I don't need to get into that because I kind of talked about that there. And also we saw a beautiful example of it. Was it Wednesday night? My days are running together since the pandemic, when we had Senator Kamala Harris on stage and, debating with that mediocre man, and all of the ways that she had to navigate, because we know the external stories about Black women and how we show up and how navigating and how we have to navigate all of that. I'm not even going to talk about that because that's a whole other sermon, talk, speech somewhere else. The third thing about why we have gaps, let's be real, are systemic barriers. It is not, you are not crazy making to think about, am I not getting ahead? Is it something that's my fault? A lot of times it's not your fault. And I'm going to say it because these coaches out here will have you be believing that it's your fault that you're not getting the results you are, that if you just tried harder, if you just did this, that, and the third, then everything will magically become easy for you. And that's not real. That's why I'm in particular about working with Black women, because I don't want to sell you a can of bullshit and have you then gaslight you into telling you that you're not experiencing results because it's your fault, and without recognizing that there are systemic barriers. It is not easy. We have tools, and we're going to talk about that, but it's not just in your mind about why things are sometimes challenging, because oppression is real. Regardless if the way that you experience it might be different than your next sister, and it might be more profound in some places in your life versus other places in your life, whether you are marginalized in some aspects and not marginalized in other aspects, I want you to know that oppression is real. You're not crazy for experiencing that. You're not wrong because following whatever Lily person, I was going to say some names, but I know Facebook might flag it, because their way looks so easy, and they say all you have to do is this, that, and the third, and then you two can have whatever. Like, come on now. We don't need to look into how those stories do not apply to us. They don't apply to us. Even all of these people that they have this whole pull themselves up by the bootstrap. Which Jenner was it they was talking about? I'm a self-made billionaire. But homegirl, first of all, look at all the advantages that you had out the gate. Let's look at how the much money that you had pour in from your family. Let's talk about how you started this race 10 steps ahead when we're still trying to do this right here. So let's not talk about that we're on the same playing field, because we're not on the same playing field. So I want y'all to hear it from me when I'm talking about having the life that you desire and you deserve. I am very much aware that this is happening within a system of systemic barriers, systemic racism, and systemic oppression. But I believe, and I know, that you still can be successful. That you can still be successful on your terms, how you define it. And success does not always have to be a dollar sign. Success does not all have to be about how much you kill and cut your wrist bleeding and trying to give to others. That's not success. Success is how you define it and to have the life that you desire and the life that you deserve. And it's going to take some work. And so that's why I stand for Black women, because I understand what it means to be a Black woman, and our experiences are not the same. Okay, so we just need to get that clear. And the last reason why we have these gaps is because we honestly do not have enough examples and blueprints around us to leverage. So what Kiva was talking about was really real. Oftentimes we're given these singular stories or singular paths to follow, and we can choose between like A, B, or C, but we don't realize that there are many other options and opportunities and pathways for us, because I don't know about you, but oftentimes our ancestors and our ancestors, and I would even say the generation before us, have been very much because of survival. So I'm not blaming them. But because of survival, they've had to keep their head down. They've had to be quiet. They've had to be secretive. They had to not tell you all the business. They had to send the kids out of the room to talk of grown folks' business, because it was about survival, right? But as a result, they didn't often pass down the pathways and the blueprints to us in a way that our type of generation, where we just want to Google everything. We just want to open up a book. We just want to be able to download a TED Talk. We just want to have all these answers in this type of way. They haven't been able to give it to us in that kind of way. Now, they did teach us. They have taught us so much. And I think it's up to our generation, especially people of my particular spiritual background, that are reclaiming and listening and learning how to be quiet and open up our ears and open up our minds and pay attention, because not everything is going to be laid out for you on a beautiful PDF that tells you how to do steps 1 through 3. You have to pay attention, and you have to piece things together. And this is where I come in. So, because I believe that there are examples out there, I believe that there are blueprints out there, and I believe that you have the power to create that for yourself. So the question, now that we know what the issues are and we know why the issues happen, okay, I got 5 points I'm going to need y'all to write down. It's going to be, how do we overcome it? Before that, I'm going to pause. I don't have no drink next to me. This is just pure adrenaline. This is me pure channeling what I know is a message for me. So I'm going to pause, and I need to hear right now. You get 2 options. You can either say, how this is hitting. You could say it's hitting, sis, or you could tell me something that you're taking away from this right now. I want to give you a second to calm your brain and to synthesize. Am I hitting on something? What's your takeaway? Okay. I'm hoping I'm still sharing. Okay. Let's see who's going to say something first. Hitting, sis. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. I'm hitting at least one person, and you know what? That's enough for me. And this is personal. It's personal. Natasha, I don't come to play. I don't come to play because you know what? I recognize our beauty and I recognize our power, and this is a time. This is the time. Oftentimes we get scared when shit is really bad, but I firmly believe that when shit is bad like this, it's really just kind of like a quelling. It's really just a clearing out. It's getting rid of all the bullshit so that we can get clear, that we can get focused, and that we can build in the way that we need to. So our time is now. Okay, so here are the 5 things that you need to do. And I'm going to tell you now, yes, I'm going to have an offer at the end, so don't be offended, because the reason why I'm going to have an offer at the end is because I want you to be successful. So I'm going to give you the 5 points, but I believe that I am not serving and I am not helping you unless I give you the detailed information about how to do that. So don't look at me sideways. Don't be like, oh, she's trying to sell me something. You're damn right, because I need us all to win. All right. So the first thing that you need to do to overcome these gaps, and this is where the magic comes in, because we are a magical people. I don't care what nobody ever told you. I don't care what nobody ever told you. We are a magical, divine people, period. I don't even have to convince you that, because if you close your eyes right now, I bet you everybody, at least one example, can talk about something that somehow made a way when there was no logical way. I bet everybody can tell a story about how they succeeded at something, got something, achieved something when the odds are stacked against them. I bet everybody in here right now could talk about one thing that they overcame when everybody else counted them out. Can I get an amen? Can I get an ashe? Can I get a hell yeah? Can I get a number 7? I need to say, everybody got some example of magic, whether or not you called it that, whether or not you acknowledged it at the time. Everybody has some magic in their life. So here are the 5 things that you need to do to overcome those gaps. You ready? Y'all ready? Y'all hearing me? Y'all still there? Knock, knock. Is this still on? Y'all ready? Okay. I got at least one person ready. That's all I need is one. Thank you. All right. So what you need to do to overcome these gaps. Number 1, you need to have a spiritual practice and routine. Period. You don't have to do this shit alone, y'all. You do not have to do this alone. You have a whole pantheon of spirits out there. You have a whole millions of ancestors behind you, ready to support you, waiting for you to ask for help, waiting for you to ask for assistance, and ready to help you move mountains. To do that, you must be in regular practice and ritual. It is necessary. If this is not true for you, then you probably haven't been around me long enough, because I don't believe in a separation between the supernatural or the spiritual and the mundane or the regular world. They are all blended together, and we are a magical people, period. So the first thing that you need is a spiritual practice and a routine. Whatever your personal routine is, you need to have one. It needs to be regular. And it needs to be something that's accessible to you. And your routine, I'm telling too much. I can't give you all, I can't give it all away. Number 2, you ready? You ready? You need to practice figuring out what it is that you really desire and doing the shadow work to figure out what is holding you back. You've got to do the work. You've got to do the work. You can't avoid that thing that you keep burying alive and keep trying to convince yourself it's not rearing its real ugly head, but you know it is because you're reacting to it in all walks of your life. You've got to do that work. There's no ways around it. Sorry. But let me tell you this. It's uncomfortable, but one, it's not dangerous. There's a difference between discomfort and danger, and we need to separate those two. And two, you'll get through it. Every emotion is just temporary. Okay? So you gotta both ideate and do the shadow work. Okay, y'all ready for number 3? You ready for number 3? Somebody's taking notes. The third thing that you need to do is that you need to figure out, you need to create a new vision for yourself. New possibilities for yourself that encapsulate your wildest dreams, that capture all of the shit that somebody said that you shouldn't want, that you don't deserve, that you can't have, that is too much, too big, too weird, too out there, not stable enough, not this enough, not that enough, not this enough. You need to figure out what it is that you truly desire, that you want to experience in this life. That's number 3. Side note, I got processes for all of this. Don't worry. Number 4. I also need you to have spiritually aligned goal setting. Many of the women that I serve, you guys are familiar with goal setting because you do it professionally all the time. You do it professionally, you've done it in your education, you've done it till your eyes closed. But I'm going to ask yourself, are those goals and those priorities that you're setting, are those spiritually aligned? Or are those aligned to somebody else's blueprint? I don't know what you mean by that, Key, but you have to explain that a little bit more. So that's number 4, spiritually aligned goal setting. And then finally, you have to learn how to shed perfectionism and procrastination because they're one and the same. I don't believe that people procrastinate because they're lazy. I believe that people procrastinate because they're overwhelmed, because they don't understand truly their energy levels, because they are worried about not doing it perfect or right, and because they may not have a system for accomplishing it. If you black in America, if you're a black woman in America, if you're a black woman in this world, you ain't lazy. Ain't no way. Ain't no way. You might have displaced energy and all those other things, but you're not lazy. So, spiritually aligned goal setting, that's super, super important, Natasha. I think that we know goal setting, but we don't know how to layer that with our calling, with our voice, with our healing, with our shadow work. We don't know how to do it in that kind of way. So, have I spoken to somebody tonight? Before I wrap up, have I spoken to you tonight? Because I got to tell you my offer. You need to know the how. I can't leave you hanging without giving you the tools to make that happen. But before we get there, have I spoken to somebody tonight? Just give me an 11, because that's one of my favorite numbers. Give me an 11 if I've spoken to you tonight. That's all I ask. Okay. While you're giving me an 11, I'm going to dismiss some of you. If you are on this call right now and you're hearing me and you say that all sounds well and good, but I'm not ready right now in my life to do anything about it, this is just nice, cute information, I'm giving you the opportunity to step out. And that's okay. There is no judgment because we are all in different places and different levels, all right? And when I say different levels, I don't mean levels meaning that one is better than the rest. I'm meaning that there's in progression, there's different places we all are. And that's okay. So if that's you, that's totally fine. But if that's not you, if you are somebody that's saying, I hear you, this is really nagging on me, this is something I've been feeling and I've been trying to avoid, or this is something I've been trying to figure out on my own and I'm stressed and I'm tired and the shit is too hard, I need help, then I got something for you. I am inviting you to Sister Space. Let me break down what Sister Space is, and I want to dispel the rumors and the lies that you've been telling yourself about why you can't afford it. Okay, so we're gonna do those two things real quick. So in sister space, ooh, Kiva, I'm stressed. I know I'm touching a nerve when it comes to perfectionism because sis, I've been there. I've been there. I deal with it. I've created systems that work for me. And it works for other women because when I took private clients, these are the things that I've done with them. So this is not something that I just, have made up in the world. And y'all, I've been in this coaching in this life coaching realm for the last 6 years, but professionally as a whole, from my degrees, from my day job, this is what I've been doing for 21 years. So you're not going to get anyone that's just making up some shit because they didn't Google something and they trying to experiment on you. I don't do my women like that. I don't play about that. I don't believe in wasting your time. I definitely don't believe in wasting your money. Okay, so Sister Space is an opportunity for women to work in a 3-month chunk of time with me, so a quarter of the year. We meet twice a month, every other Wednesday, and we work through those 5 steps that I just outlined for you. Creating and cultivating a spiritual practice and ritual, visualization and manifestation work, dealing with shadow work, figuring out I have a whole process for how do you really set visions, and we even do vision board creation. We talk about spiritually aligned goal setting, shedding perfectionism and procrastination. So we go through all of those things in the course of 3 months. We meet every other week, and the format of that time is I come on here, I do a lesson with you, and then we stay on and we workshop it together. So that's really, really important because you have literally a company of women, and Sunithia has been in Sister Space with me. I can't remember, Natasha, if you were there or not, so I apologize. But we work collectively and collaboratively to make each other win, because that's what we're here for. We are here for the collective, and we're here for us to win. Beyond the every other week time, we have a private community. So if you need to check in with somebody, if you say, look, I got this damn thing that I know I'm supposed to be doing, but I just need somebody to hop on a call with me. Let's sit down for an hour and let's just have some mastermind work. We don't have to talk, but we can hold each other accountable. Sister Space also provides that. Because this is cycle 3, the payment is, let me tell you what it is right now. So I'm going to dispel the rumors like, I don't know if I can afford it, because for most of us, not for everybody, but for a lot of us, that's not simply true. So the cost of it is $797 if you pay in full. However, I do take payment plans. And the reason why, and the price used to be very different in the past, and what I've discovered is that people need to put their money where their mouth is, right? People need to pay in order to be accountable to a process. Also, this is about me stepping up into my power, because I know what my intelligence is worth. I know what my time was worth. I know what my expertise is worth. And it wasn't free for me to attain, and it wasn't free for me to do this. And I believe that I deserve to be compensated for that. And I believe that you deserve to invest in yourself. So here's what I know. I know that in 3 months, almost every single person on this call will have spent $797. So it's not a question about if you have the money. It's a question of, how do you want that money to be represented in your life? What do you want to have to show for that at the end of the day? So I know everyone's situation is different. I'm going to put the application in the comments. I'm going to stay on here and answer whatever questions you have. But let me just close with this. You're here for a reason. You're here because you have something that you have been grappling with. I don't want to say struggling with, but something that you've been grappling with. The status quo doesn't work for you anymore, and you're tired of trying it that way. So why not try something different? Why not work with somebody that you know who has your back? Why not actually tackle these issues instead of spending another 3 months, another 6 months, another year, hoping to be in a different place, doing the same thing but hoping for different results? That's what I ask for you, and that's what I invite you to do. So, did I make your time worth it? It's been a little less than an hour. Was this something that was helpful for you? I just need to know, did I not waste your time? Because that's important to me. Did you get something from tonight? Okay. So I think my comments are on a lag. I'm hoping so. Or maybe y'all just busy because you said, let me go ahead and fill out this application and stop playing with myself. I hope that if you are watching this on the replay, that I would love to see your comments and thoughts. I want to know that you got something from tonight. I hope that you're walking away with a new belief in yourself and a new idea of what's possible. Thank y'all so very much. I love you. I love you because you are my people, and I cannot wait to see you on October 28th when Sister Space starts. I cannot wait to see your application. And if you got some issues with your money is funny, or your change is strange, don't be scared. Just hit me up on the inbox. Complete the application, and then let's talk. All right? All right. See y'all.